I'll be quick. My female 26, fiance male 32 is blind. We don't disagree a lot, except he always gets bothered whenever I eat different food from what he's eating when we go out. Like, if we're having dinner out and I order something else, he'd instantly get upset and accuse me of treating him as less than when I just have different tastes in food. I eat what he eats to keep the peace. I eat out alone as an alternative. But since he clearly doesn't trust me, he'd randomly touch my plate to see if I have the same dish. This caused huge arguments between us and I told him to stop doing it and he said he would. We went out to eat nights ago and I ordered the same dish he ordered. When the food arrived, he looked somewhat uncomfortable. I asked what was wrong and he refused to say, and before I could even grab the fork, he extended his arm and his hand touched the food on my plate. He moved quickly and started excusing what he did, saying he just wanted to make sure, but I lost it on him. I felt so disgusted and there was no way I could eat the food after he touched it. He tried to get me to drop it, saying that I shouldn't be grossed out by his hand and that I overreacted, but I grabbed his plate and told him I was taking it as my dinner. He at first asked me to be rational and give the plate back, but I refused. An argument ensued and we had a fight. He then ended up leaving and started spam texting me, accusing me of being bitter, pathetic and childish and robbing his dinner. He went to stay with his friend who picked him up, and his friend sided with him, saying I was in the wrong. He even went as far as to say that I was abusing my fiancé and financially controlling him when I pointed out that I was the one who paid for the food. The problem is magnified now with him wanting an apology and me refusing to give him one. My parents think I should have more patience and that this is typical love spats between us, but I'm not sure. Was I the idiot with how I handled this? Edit. I want to point out that this is not the case when we eat at home. He has no issue with me eating different food, but in public, it's a different story. Why on earth does he insist that you must order the same dish he orders at restaurants? And why are you following this rule he's implemented? This is ridiculously controlling. Since you're at a restaurant, he most likely heard you ordering the same meal, so touching it to be sure is unnecessary. Seems like a power play to me. Not the idiot, but your fiancé is unreasonably controlling. The fact that he wouldn't eat the plate that he touched shows he knows it's a disgusting thing to do. Then he gets cranky and goes pouting at his friend's house. For what? All this drama because of his unreasonable hang-up about you eating different food than him. Do not marry this man. He will use his disability at every turn to make you the bad guy. Seeing how controlling he is now, it will probably get 10 times worse when you're married. The fact that you're even questioning yourself in this instance says that he spent a significant amount of time convincing you that his having control over you is normal and how it should be. I'm sure this isn't the only way he tries to exercise control over you. Why do you put up with this? Do you realize how incredibly disrespectful, forget bizarre, controlling, unsanitary, selfish, etc. it is for him to touch your food to ensure you're eating the same food as him? I can't believe you allow that. And the fact that he managed to get his friend to accuse you of abuse and your parents to believe this is a typical spat is deeply, deeply concerning. It means he's not only manipulating you, he's manipulating others in your life in his quest to control and isolate you. I implore you to put all wedding planning on hold. It's disgusting just to stick your fingers in someone else's dinner and expect them to eat it. Girl, are you really so desperate? Is the bar this low? Being single is better than this. My wife was pregnant with our first child. We weren't telling anyone yet because it was early. My mom was over at our house and noticed some obvious clues of pregnancy. She asked about it and we were honest. We also asked her to please respect our wishes and not tell people because it was early in the pregnancy and we wanted time to absorb it. The pregnancy was unplanned but welcome. My mom lasted 2 weeks before she started posting about becoming a grandmother. We hadn't told her yet we lost the baby. I felt dead inside when I saw her post, so I commented, "Rachel had a loss a week ago." I guess it took about an hour for my mom to see the comment and delete her post. We've been getting condolences, which we don't want, and my mom has been getting crapped on by friends and family for being so insensitive. She's mad at me for not telling her that we had lost her grandchild. I think I was an idiot because I replied that I didn't want her blabbing my family's personal life again. She's crying, and my dad says that I have every right to be upset, but that I could have been nicer. I'm just so angry right now that I don't know how to feel. Am I the idiot? We had lost her grandchild. What? Your mom has issues. She has made the entire loss about her. So sorry for what you and your wife are going through. Your mom didn't respect your wishes and posted your news on social media. There's nothing wrong with your response to her. She's butthurt that friends and family have rightly been calling her out on her behaviour. You're grieving and your mum's thoughtlessness and betrayal of confidence put her in the situation she's in. Take time out for you and your wife to care for each other. Yeah, your mum deserves every comment she's getting about being insensitive. She has no right to be mad at you. She ought to be grovelling for your forgiveness. I think Dad meant, clearly your pregnancy was all about your mother, and your loss is also about her, which is very upsetting to her, and now I have to deal with her and you've made it my problem. I'd be ready to block both of them for the foreseeable future. She violates your privacy and she's mad. You were clear she was to keep her mouth shut. At best, you've staved off the potential congratulations you would have gotten from all the people ignorant of your loss. Anyone seeing your mom's post would most likely feel compelled to say something to your wife about it. After learning of the news, they may show more tact and only respond if your wife says something. So sorry this happened to you. I, 35 female, have 2 children, a male kindergartner and a female toddler, and an infant, 16 weeks. My first 2 pregnancies have gone quite smoothly, with a few bumps on the way but not many problems. My third pregnancy was tough as I got diagnosed with preeclampsia, put on bed rest for 6 weeks and had an emergency C-section, during which I and the baby almost died. I stayed in the hospital for over 2 weeks before deemed healthy enough to be released. My husband has been beside me in the delivery room all 3 times and does most of the chores and takes care of the kids while I recover and make sure I have everything I need. We've saved more than enough money from both our jobs to have the ability to afford to stay at home for as long as is needed. My best friend, we'll call her Ashley, 36 female, has been my BFF since elementary school. We've never missed each other's birthdays, no matter what was going on in our lives or how far apart we were. She was also aware of my troubles. Yesterday it was her 36th birthday. In the morning I was feeling below par and I was too tired to get out of bed, so my husband took care of all the kids and helped me shower like he did 100 times before the pregnancies and postpartum. When it was around 2 p.m. I was feeling a little better but I was still worn out, so I called Ashley. Her birthday party was scheduled at 3 p.m. and I was supposed to arrive at 2:30 p.m. I waited until 2 p.m. because I knew how important her birthday was, and I was hoping that I'd feel good enough to come over. I told her that, I'm sorry but I'm afraid I won't be able to come to your birthday party because I'm not feeling well. She asked what was wrong and I told her that I was exhausted and there was no way I could be at her party. I literally heard her sigh angrily and she said, "But what about our promise? I broke my arm while racing and still travelled 1,000 miles for your birthday, but you can't drive 20 miles to see me. If your fat butt can reach the grocery store, then you'd come here if you actually cared." That's when I became mad and told her, well, if you had kids then you would understand, and that's when she said, "Screw you," and hung up. That was only part of the conversation. You might think, what's so bad about saying if you had kids? Ashley can't get pregnant due to an incident that happened during our younger college days, and the topic is very sensitive to her, so my saying that was extremely vile. This morning I woke up feeling much better, and I attempted to contact Ashley to apologise, but she wouldn't pick up and ignored all my text messages. My husband said that I shouldn't apologise because if she was a real friend she would have shown concern and worry instead of anger and the attitude of a brat, so she deserved my comeback. But I feel so guilty for bringing up her inability to have kids, and I feel like such an idiot for doing so. Am I the idiot? Gonna say you are the idiot. She said something unpleasant, but you bailed last minute and then said something unforgivably mean. If I were her, I'd block you and never look back. You sound really mean, especially if it's a sensitive topic too. We trust our friends to not ever say evil things about things that hurt us. Just because you popped out 3 kids doesn't mean you're better than her. Right? She also says 16 weeks. Mom, your baby is a few months old. Like, I get it's important to say weeks in clinical settings for developmental purposes, but here OP is just trying to make it seem like her baby is much younger. Also, who uses infertility as an insult? You throwing her infertility in her face was an idiot move. I don't care how tired or unwell you were. You don't do that. I hope your friend finds a better bestie. It's a stupid friends pack that made no accommodations for adult life situations, especially 36. It's not as big as 30 or 40. Although, if you were still having problems getting out of bed or showering on your own 4 months postpartum, I hope you're under a doctor's care. You waited until the last minute to tell her you weren't coming. You should have warned her days or weeks ago if you have consistently been this weak. Her comment was unkind, but your comment was downright cruel. My 19 female brother Troy, tween, has been a nightmare since childhood. He curses at us and calls our mom Diana, her first name. I think a big reason for this is that Troy's dad isn't in his life and my mom really hasn't handled it in the best way. Mom makes excuses for Troy like he hasn't been the same since his father left, but I don't think she's tried therapy and she's basically given up and decided that Troy is just going to be this way and there's nothing anyone can do about it. My mom tells lies to hide how bad things are with Troy. I think she's in denial herself and it's her coping mechanism to avoid being too overwhelmed by the situation. It's not as if Troy acts any better in front of people outside the family. Troy was kicked out of his public school after an extremely cruel prank. But she's told people that she started homeschooling Troy because she realized that gifted kids need to lead their own education. He's in a homeschool co-op but is on thin ice because of how he acts. I've had to help with Troy and have ended up parenting much more than a sister should have to. Often our mom couldn't get off work, and I would end up having to take Troy home or talk to his teachers because he got in trouble. It's a strain because Troy really doesn't respect me much more than he does our mom. He flips me off, calls me names, and yells over stupid things. Troy doesn't show any real respect or appreciation, even when I'm trying to do something nice for him. My friend Haley has a sister who just married and moved in with her now husband, meaning there's an empty room at Haley's house. Haley and her parents said that as long as I pull my weight with chores and stay out of trouble, I can live with them and pay nothing in rent. I accepted Haley's offer and have lived with her for about 4 months. Unfortunately, things are not going well with Troy and our mom. She told me that she couldn't handle Troy alone and begged me to come back home because she needed help with him. My mom offered to buy me a car and pay for all its insurance and gas if I came back. I know this isn't easy for her and it means she's desperate. I told my mom I was sorry but I like my current living situation and don't want to return to Troy's chaos and disrespect. I told my mom that I loved her, but she said I was breaking her heart and she accused me of not even caring. I feel awful because I know my mom is desperate and she can't handle Troy, but he doesn't respect me and I can't deal with him either. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your mom is overwhelmed and not making good choices. But emotionally manipulating her child to take care of her younger child is not a good look on anyone. The offer of the car is tempting, but it sounds like you already realize it's not worth it. Your mom needs to figure out how to parent her son. You should stay where you are for as long as you can, not only for yourself but so she's motivated to do what she needs to do. This. OP, I would talk to your mom and tell her she's clearly struggling, but the solution is for her to get her son into therapy, find an alternative school for children with behavioral issues and take some parenting classes, not guilt you into continuing to be a secondary parent. Then, distance yourself from your mom and brother. This isn't your battle to fight. Absolutely, if she has money for a car, then the first step is a diagnosis. Then they might be able to actually help him. Your mom needs to look into tough love, parenting classes, or just effective parenting. She could have taken advantage of 1 million free parenting resources. Instead, she used you. I suspect that the mother would buy the car but keep the title instead of giving the title to OP. This way, the mother would ultimately control the car in order to ensure OP takes care of the brother. OP could use the car until they did something mom didn't like, such as living her life, and then the car is gone, along with any chance of escape. Do not fall for the trap, OP. Troy is not your kid, thank goodness. Do not sacrifice your own life for this spoiled bully. I'm sorry it's so hard on your mom, but parentifying you and wrecking your life is not the answer. I'm currently on a weekend away with my husband's extended family. He and I are technically working from home over this week, so we took our laptops to the big house the family is renting. I also brought my baby's playpen because he's very active and I knew there would be times when one or both of us wouldn't be able to run after him. So anyway, I was watching him yesterday evening, Saturday, in the playpen, while I was responding to some emails that were urgent. My husband's cousin-in-law Amy walked past me with their young toddler and saw the playpen set up that I had. I admit she looked kinda tired, but I wasn't really noticing anything outside my kid and my laptop. She asked if I could play with her baby in the pen for a couple of hours so she could nap. I said no because I needed to finish work, then I was putting my kid down for his nap, and then my husband and I would cook dinner. It was our turn. I admit I did say, Baby E has a dad, doesn't she? I saw him playing football earlier. Why doesn't he take over so you can nap? Amy left and I carried on the stuff I had to do. I noticed that she, her husband, and her mother-in-law didn't come to eat at the same time as everyone else. After dinner, my mother-in-law took my husband and me aside and said I made issues between their family because Amy was mad at her husband and Amy's mother-in-law thought I was interfering and I should have just helped her out. Mother-in-law thinks I was an idiot because I could technically have watched over a kid that can only crawl while I was watching one who loves to run and climb, but my husband and I don't think it was my responsibility in this instance. Not the idiot. Sounds like Amy is a single parent and someone finally pointed it out to her. Someone needed to remind her she had a baby daddy. Amy's problem with her husband has nothing to do with you, your husband, or your child. The mother-in-law can watch her kid if it's that urgent. You were occupied. It's funny how there's always someone in these stories to criticize people for not stepping up without offering themselves. Mother-in-law could have watched it if it was such a big deal, or the child's dad could have been a parent for the first time ever. Weird that mommy's mad at you for putting the idea in daughter-in-law's head that her darling son should help. Mommy is why Amy's husband ended up the way he did. However, I was pleasantly surprised by Amy. I thought she would be mad at you. Instead, your reasonable question about why her husband doesn't help her out with watching their kid helped open her eyes. You can't be blamed for that. It was a legitimate question that could lead to long-term improvement in his parenting.